Why don't we talk about Celebrini? What do we expect from him? Because he's having a great year in the NCAA with BU, has 25 points in 15 games as a 2006 born player. Like, the kid's good, projected to go first overall in this upcoming draft. But as you know, we usually have to temper expectations for players who are expected to go first overall, unless it's Connor Bedard at the World Juniors. So what do you guys think Celebrini is going to get up to here at this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, lower the expectations, because it's not necessarily about their play. It's about how much slack the team is willing to give him, because we've seen it in the past that, they trust the 19-year-olds on Team Canada. So we'll see how the ice time goes. But I think if he grabs bull by the horns in the first few games, then, and he slots in at the top of the lineup, he could just be filthy. Last year in the U18s, he dominated that team. 6 goals, 9 assists in 7 games. So, I mean, at least they have some familiarity there. That does mean something. The teams, obviously, when you're in the system, since you're on the U16s, U17s, U18s, and then playing for this World Junior team, they know that they can put their trust in you. And he is the highly anticipated first overall pick. So I'm thinking that he is going to play a pretty big factor in this team.
Yeah. Just looking at all of the different rankings, he is consolidated number one by Elite Prospects, Daily Faceoff, The Hockey News, Bob McKenzie, Craig Button, who will be joining Harper later in this show. Forgot to mention that, but that's a pretty big deal for us, so that's cool. As long as everything goes well. And Dauber Prospects, so he's consolidated, ranked number one. I don't think anyone is really challenging for that number one spot right now. And if Celebrini has a good World Junior tournament, he might just be a lock.
Yeah, the only other guy I could think of that would challenge for that number one spot is Cole Eiserman of the U.S., who is actually Celebrini's teammate at BU right now. But BU, right? Not Boston College.
Yeah, it's BU, but
Eiserman's not there yet.
Yeah, I was going to say Eiserman, I think, is committed to BU, but he's playing with the development program.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
But also, like, I've been seeing some, and Case, you and I have talked about this a bit, but I've been seeing some different rankings where Eiserman is dropping and some other players are kind of climbing the ladder, which seems to happen every year, right? So I don't think that there's a clear even number 2 anymore in this draft.
On paper, Eiserman is like a carbon copy of Celebrini, and Celebrini's having success in the NCAA at his age, whereas Eiserman's playing in the National Development Program. So his stock has fallen in terms of like going number 1 overall. There was a time where, we're kind of thinking the same thing, but you look back to their USHL stats and their they both played at Shattuck's as well, right?
Yeah.
You look back at the stats, it's like
it's the same, man.
So eerie how similar these players are, but
they're both 6 foot, about 190, 195. They both shoot left. Like, there's no
they're play center or wing.
Yeah. So very similar players, but you're right, Case. Like, the production this year for Celebrini is arguably more impressive in the NCAA, given the fact that he has 25 points in 15 games versus Cole Eiserman's in the National Development Program. He has 45 points in 23 games, which is pretty crazy, but it's just different levels of competition, and Celebrini is really excelling. But then there are some other players too, like Ivan Demidov. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that, but I've seen that his name has been climbing the ranks recently, and there are some other players in there too. Adam Juracek, I don't think will be in that top 3 range, but could crack the top 5 depending how the rest of the season goes. So there's a lot of good prospects out there who we will be watching at this tournament, but I think it's safe to say that Celebrini is the projected number 1, and unless something crazy happens, he should go number 1.
Yeah, definitely. And I have seen in some lineup projections for this team that he very well could be penciled in as the number one center on a line with Geekie and Savoy. I have seen that a few times in a couple of different sources. And yes, Chad, as you mentioned, we will be joined by TSN Director of Scouting Craig Button later on in this episode. We're going to talk about some players to watch with him, and definitely planning on asking him about Macklin Celebrini as well. So very, very exciting for us. Kind of an early Christmas present for us if we look at it that way. It'll be great to have Craig on. So that's very exciting.